Welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. Yes, I am Larry Sharpe, and I'm here. It is 7 p.m., a little bit after on the East Coast, and I'm so happy you've decided to join me for a little bit of your evening. There are many things that bother me about the state that I live in, New York State, and many people feel the same way. You may or may not live in this state, and you probably have issues with my state. I get it. Everybody does. The What I wanted to bring up though is a video that I saw that really bothered me about people leaving New York. And I hear people leaving New York all the time. People tell me it as I call people. They let me know that they're no longer in New York anymore. People reach out to me and DM me and say, "Hey, I'm moving to Florida," all the time. And it's heartbreaking for me because I want people to stay. I get why they leave. I'm not mad at them for leaving. It makes total sense. But I would like them to stay. I want to fix New York and stand and fight because the problem that we're having is that if you want New York to get better and you leave, you can't help to make it better. So I try to stay and make it better if I can. It's a daunting task. But this gentleman, his YouTube and Discord name is ActionKid, and he put out a short video on why he's leaving New York, and it just really affected me. Before I go there, though, I'm going to show you in a second. Before I talk about it, please like, comment, share. You know I want you to put a comment in, even just saying good evening. It's good to just put a comment in. You want to ask a question, put it in there. It's awesome. I love that. Liking, commenting, and sharing does matter. Helps you get past that algorithm. Lets people know what I'm talking about. Also, if you want to support the show, head over to libertarianism.com. Click that link right there. That they're a sponsor of our show. They keep the show going. So you want to keep the show going? I do. Help out. It's free. You take the tests. You follow the classes. Watch some videos. It's awesome stuff about libertarianism. Show your friends it if they care about libertarianism. It's all good stuff. If you like the swag, you can earn the swag for free by taking the classes, or you can buy it if you love it so much. Please buy it if you like it. Otherwise, you can take the tests, win the swag for free. It's not a bad deal. Please do that. They support the show. It's very good for us. If you want to support me running around New York, you can. LarrySharpe.com/donate is where you can go if you want to help me run around New York State and try to make New York State a better state. So let me show you what this gentleman and young man, not what you would think is, the norm for someone being mad about leaving New York State.
That's right, folks. I'm leaving New York.
This guy's been in New York for years. And he's not like some, he's the old white guy who hates the Dems. No, he's some older man or woman whose kids just graduated, or he just retired or something. No, he's a young professional and he's leaving. This is not supposed to happen, and it is.
It's not clickbait. Gonna be missing this view for sure.
Now, by the way, where he is, for those who don't know, he's in Brooklyn. For those of you who don't know Brooklyn, people who live in Brooklyn love Brooklyn. That's why they live in Brooklyn. He loves Brooklyn. He says, I love the view. I love where I am. He loves that part of the city. And he's leaving.
Explain the best I can of why I'm moving and where, but it's not an easy decision to make, especially when you've lived in a city like this for your entire life here. The World Trade Center is behind me, the Brooklyn Bridge, and this is my favorite park in the city, Brooklyn Bridge Park. We've got Jane's Carousel over there. But yeah.
This is heartbreaking for me. It is. And if you've lived in New York City or know New York City, you either were someone like him or you know someone like him. That guy is kind of me too, right? People say, Larry, why do you stay in the city? I live here. I'm born here. My family and friends are here. My business is here. Yeah. Usually when people are leaving the city, they say it in an angry way, which, I expect, but it isn't as emotional when someone goes, damn taxes or something, and walks away. This guy's obviously broken up about this. I feel his pain.
Big change to me for sure. Where can I start? I guess I'll list some topics of why I'm leaving New York. I won't reveal where until later in the video. Let's get started. So number one, homeless, the mentally ill, and growing crime in New York City. And I'm ashamed to even mention this, especially since it's a city that I love and I've lived in my entire life.
He's actually bringing up the most important piece. He says, I'm embarrassed bringing it up. I feel your pain, man. I hate how bad the city has become. He's right. And I don't like talking about it, but I do. I don't like it. You think I like telling you how many people get murdered in my city? Of course, I don't like telling you that, but I'm not going to hide the truth. But it bothers me to say that. I'm not proud of that. Neither is he. And he's saying the homeless people and the violence and yes, he is unhappy about it. I get it, man. I feel his pain. But what are you going to do?
But New York City has a growing problem.
Look at that. Shoplifted to death. And by the way, this is in Queens, nearby where I live. Shoplifted to death because no one will do anything about what's happening in the crime in my city.
Every time I walk through the streets, I notice more mentally unstable people out there that aren't getting the help they need.
Yes.
I think it's a restaurant inside.
Hey, motherfucker.
Hi.
How the fuck are you?
Don't say that to me, please. Homeless people.
That was a random guy as he walks down the street looking for restaurants, yelling at him. It's a random guy. That's New York.
People on the streets, and also the crime is very unsettling now. I mean, just the other day there was like 6 stabbings throughout the city, and
It was actually 5.
I don't really feel that New York City is a safe.
That's still terrible. I mean, I'm correcting him. There were actually 5 stabbings, but that's 5 too many, right? That's 5 too many.
As it used to be. I constantly mention this on my walks. People ask me if New York City is safe, which I still think is a safe city, but it's getting to the point where if New York City doesn't really act soon, it's going to go into a place where it won't be able to turn around again. And
this is why I keep talking. See, he's feeling the same thing I'm feeling. People are like, Larry, why are you killing yourself to run again? Why are you doing this? Why don't you just pack up and leave? People are like, I live in Tennessee, come to Tennessee. I live in Florida, come to Florida. Because I think the window for change is closing. I think the ActionKid, that's what he goes by, ActionKid. I think he's right. That if we don't change this soon, we come to a point of no return. It just spirals into oblivion, to where it becomes a city that no one wants to live there, where it's only a city of the very wealthy and protected and the poor. And that's it.
that's not something I want for New York.
Yep.
So politics. New York City is a big mess of bad politics.
Yes.
And I don't really like to be talking politics on this channel. It was never what my channel was about, but there are some serious quality of life issues in the city that really can't be ignored anymore. Like,
do you hear that? There's some serious, when I was talking about police reform, I was talking about how in many places in rural areas, quality of life, not that big of a deal, right? Noise pollution and such isn't that big of a deal in many parts of New York. But New York City, these types of things are critical for us. And we want to have more issues that deal with quality of life. It's a critical piece when we live on top of each other, right? There are many counties in New York State where there aren't even 50,000 people in the entire county, many counties. There are more than 50,000 people in 1 square mile of Manhattan. That's how we live on top of each other.
this growing crime. I mean, this whole thing with this bail reform where people were just caught and released back into the streets again, and they've been arrested like tens of times in the past. I mean, if you just make sense of it as a reasonable person, why should we let this person back in the streets again when he...
This is completely true. And the bail reform, why I'm so upset about this personally, and I really am, there are many reasons why I'm upset. Reason number one, the concept of bail reform is a wonderful concept. We should have some form of bail reform, but not this bail reform. The one we got in New York State is garbage. It is terrible. And I thought, okay, well, maybe it will be okay, because even though it's bad bail reform, this is silly me what I actually thought. And I said it. I'm public. What I said the bail reform was bad. I knew it was when it was passed. But if you remember what I said I believe it'll be fixed in the courts. That's what I believed. I thought what would happen is judges would see how bad it is. They would go against the law and have rulings against the law. Those rulings would be appealed, and then rulings would then come down that would adjust the law in the courts via appellate court rulings. That's what I thought would happen. Wow, was I wrong. I had no idea how bad our judges are. What do I mean by bad? The judges are just following the bail reform law to what his point is, beyond common sense. Beyond common sense. They're going, well, I have no power, so out you go. Instead of going, I don't care if I have no power. This person is obviously a threat to society, so I am going to remand them anyway, and I'll see you at the appellate court. I'll see you at the appellate court. Sue me, and then we will then fix this. That's what I assume would happen. But I'm going to do something that no one else is doing. The bail reform is bad. It was a bad bill. And shame on the judges also. Why wouldn't they stand up? The judges are letting this happen because the judges don't like an important fact, which I get why, but it's petty. The judges were given absolutely no real leeway at all. New Jersey gave them some leeway. I get it. But the reason why the judges got no leeway is because they have been locking everybody up for everything. Their track record was so horribly bad for locking up people in Rikers Island for years who were convicted of nothing. So because their track record was so bad, that's why the bill was so harsh. So what they should have done is said, you know what? I'm going to lock this guy up anyway. The guy, if some of you may have noticed, it was a guy who got out of jail. He was out in jail, and he took literally his own feces and rubbed it on a woman's face in the subway. This happened like a couple days ago. Went to jail. They let him out. What? Why? Why would you let that guy out? Why would any judge let that guy out? And you will go, Larry, judges have to follow the law. No. How do you fight the law without that? Now, my issue here is bail reform should be focused on one important issue over anything else. First-time offenders. First-time offenders is the biggest issue. If you just focus your bail reform on first-time offenders, that is the Band-Aid that repairs everything right away. We could then detail things, but are you a first-time offender? Yes. Good. Out you go. Life is good. Do your thing. You screwed up. If you're a first-time offender, the odds are much higher that you might have got caught in with a bad crowd. You might have made a mistake. You might have done something wrong and learned your lesson and won't do it again. Now you've got a chance at a second chance. You've been arrested 2, 3, 4 times. Some of these guys have been arrested 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 times. Some are convicted. Some have already, literally making up, had a court date and skipped the court date. So they've already shown they won't show up. And they still let them out. What are you doing? And my response is the bill is bad. Shame on them. And why didn't a judge or two stand up and go, I don't care. I'm locking you up. See you in appellate courts. And then you have rulings. That is what I assumed would happen. Why was I wrong? That the judges would be so petty they wouldn't actually do that. It is insane that's what but that's what's actually happening. Judges are going, go ahead. You might go, Larry, they have to follow the law. Here is what I would use, and I would use the Gary Johnson method. Yes, I love Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson told me something. He said when he was picking judges for his court in New Mexico, he would ask them an important question. He would sit them down and say, hey, judge, what if in New Mexico, because he was governor of New Mexico before he ran for president, he said, what if New Mexico passed the law that, that basically said if you were 17 years old or older and you were convicted of graffiti, it was the death penalty, and it was a mandatory sentence, and that's what it was. And the judge had no choice that if anyone 17 years or older was convicted of graffiti, the judge must sentence them to death. And now you're in court and the jury convicts a 17-year-old of graffiti. What do you do? And what he told me was any answer that wasn't, well, I have to convict him and I have to sentence him to death, he would accept. Any answer, whether I would resign or I would say no and fight it, or I would find a reason, or I would search the law, or whatever answer that was not, well, it's the law, I guess he dies. Any answer other than that was good. If he answered, I have to follow the law, and he has to be sentenced to death, I don't want you as a judge. Now, that's extreme, but the concept is the same. This guy has been arrested multiple times. He's been assaulting people multiple times. He doesn't show up to his court date multiple times. I know the law says, the bad bail law says, let him out. Why are you letting him out? Why are you letting him out? This is my point. This man is correct. The judges are bad. The system is bad. The law is bad. It's all bad. Bail reform should be focused on first-time offenders. You focus it on that, everything's better. The vast majority of people who have been committing these crimes, the vast majority are multiple offenders. Change that, and we've changed almost everything.
He's shown a weapon when he's assaulted someone else, but New York City has this great idea where we arrest these people and then we just let them back on to commit more crimes. It's pretty sad.
Not wrong.
Other things too, like this jail in Chinatown, and now they want to put more homeless shelters there too. I mean, everyone sees that the community is going to have a worse quality of life because of it. But
now that's NIMBYism, but he's right? The problem we have in New York City is they're talking about shutting down Rikers Island, which in theory, be clear, in theory is a wonderful idea. It's a terrible jail. I get the idea, and I understand why people would want to take down that jail. I get it. My problem is, what's your plan? You can't just tear the jail down. You've got to have a real plan to do something that big, and we don't. Our plan is, we'll do stuff. That's literally our plan. That's not a plan. You cannot shut down that jail without having a plan. We have no plan. Here's the reality. Developers want that island to make very expensive condos and very expensive housing, which I get. If I was a developer, I'd want that too. That makes total sense. A separate island away from all the crime. All the wealthy people can live there. I get it. If I was wealthy, I'd want that. If I would. But that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, right? I understand why they're doing it. It's not the right thing. You got to have a plan. You can't just shove jails into local areas and hope that that'll work. You've got to have a plan for this. And they don't have a good one at all. This is a little bit NIMBYism. But still, you've got to have a plan.
nothing seems to be done. I mean, What is going on with New York?
This is my entire point and why we have to have third parties, particularly Libertarian Party. Because without this, you have one party rule in New York, all within New York State and New York City, and nothing gets done. Nothing has to get done. What are you going to do? You don't have any power. Neither do I. That's the sad part.
Bad politics.
Yep.
Throughout the past few years, too, I've also seen that New York City is punishing the small businesses. I mean, just the restaurant industry alone, they got such conflicting guidance from the city. I mean, they were like, you can open, now you can't open, now you can open again, but only outdoors. And it's like, make sense of it all.
Look at all of those closed shops he went to. New York City's small businesses are a ghost town. This was a self-inflicted wound. He's right. New York City devastated our small business. And this guy's not a business guy. He's not a politician. He's a regular young guy, and he sees the same thing that I see. I've been complaining about this garbage forever. Forever. And he gets it too. And he's like, why am I here now?
I don't know what to do. It's like, and the city's not inviting the small businesses back into the city. The rent's expensive, taxes are expensive, and
the rents, this is some guy, he's saying, now he's not saying I want small business because I care about, for example, the business community. That's not what he's saying. He likes the aspect of the city that shows different people being here and there and small businesses vibrant. He likes the feel of that vibrance. And you know what? So do I. I like the idea that the Jamaican restaurant is really people who came from Jamaica and they now live here and their family's been there for X years and they've been running it, and that's the real thing. I like that. I like the idea that the Chinese restaurant is people who came from China. Their families come directly from China. I like that the African store is people from Africa. I like those types of things. I like that the local guy can show up. And when you go to the kosher restaurant, it's really people who are kosher, right? It's everything you can imagine. It's there. And we're losing it.
They don't really seem to be wanting to help the small businesses in this city. That's why I don't like it. I've walked through the streets of Manhattan and I see for lease signs all over the place where
everywhere
great places used to be and now they're closed. That's not a place I want to be anymore.
See that? He's saying that's not a place where I want to be. He's just saying as a regular person, if you don't get those good aspects of the city, some of you I'm sure watching don't care about that. It's not your thing. It's not your thing. That's fine. You don't live here. I got it. But if you live here, that's what you like about it, right? You live here and you like about it. You lose that, then why the hell do you live here?
Now you must be wondering, where am I moving to? And it's a place.
Where do you think he's going? He lives in New York and he's leaving. Where is he going? I think we know where he's going.
Place I've been to before. I'm going to be moving to South Florida. More specifically,
of course.
Miami. The reason why I chose Miami is because...
Damn you, DeSantis! You keep taking my people! Yes, I'm shaking my fist at DeSantis. He keeps taking my people. More and more leaving. You know, you guys, what's so funny? What is so funny? I shouldn't say funny. It's not funny. What's so bad? What's so bad about this is Florida used to be a swing state. If you go back just 10 years, less, maybe even 8 years, Florida was a swing state. Will it go red? Will it go blue? We got to see. Those days are over. Florida's a red state. And it's not because all of a sudden the Floridians became red. That's not what happened. New York has exported its Republicans down there. All conservatives have gone down to Florida. So we turned the state, freaking New York, we turned the state red because we got rid of all our conservatives and Republicans and set them all down there. I don't think he's one, but he's going to become one, right? Odds are if he lives in New York City, he's probably Democrat just because it's 6-1 Democrat Republican. But if he is a Democrat, he's going to go to Florida and become a Republican because the Democratic leadership here has just made him feel terrible. I better call him up, see if I can get him a libertarian. So, hey, Joe, are you watching? So you might want to see if you can grab him when he gets down there, make him a libertarian because he's not going to be a Democrat anymore.
It's a growing city. The downtown is growing. I mean, in a few years, they plan to turn it into a tech hub, also redevelop the highways there, and also make like a Highline Park. And they really seem to cater to the small businesses and people who want to conduct work in the city. Whereas in New York, it seems that the city is against these people from opening up shop here. New York's
100% true. You've heard me complain about this. If you don't live in New York City and you're watching, you've heard me complain about this 80,000 times. And here's some other guy. By the way, I don't know this man. We don't know each other. We're not friends. I don't know who he is, right? And he's saying the same thing. I didn't tell him, hey, do a video on this. That's not what happened. He did this on his own. He sees the same problems that I see. And he's packing up and leaving.
City is expensive, and that is a fact. It's got one of the highest costs of living in the entire world.
Yep.
Not to say Miami isn't expensive, because I think it got rated like the most expensive city now after New York, but at least the real estate is a little bit more affordable. You get more square footage for your money than here.
And there's a big point. The average person who's not libertarian is not unhappy with paying taxes. Clearly, libertarians don't feel that way. But most people aren't libertarians, right? So the average American is not against paying taxes. What they're against is getting nothing or garbage for their taxes. And he's saying, well, it'll be expensive on net taxes and stuff and whatever. I'll spend more, but I'll get more. I'm getting the city to give me stuff. I'm getting stuff that I want. Things are getting built. They're supporting small businesses. They're not punishing me. They're not against me. They're at least on my side. And I got to tell you, most people, don't need the government to be on their side. Most don't. They need a government to not be against them, right? That's the issue. And in New York, the government is against you if you're trying to grow your business or your career. It's not neutral. It's definitely not supporting you, but it is literally fighting against you. And he feels that too.
In New York City. And here in New York, you pay $2,500. You'd be lucky to get a studio here in Manhattan.
He's not lying. $2,500 a month. You're lucky if you get a studio apartment in Manhattan. That means you got to pay $2,500 a month and you can't even get a bedroom. That's Manhattan. In Queens and the boroughs, you can get a bedroom with that. You can get a bedroom. You can. In Manhattan, you can't even get a bedroom.
Over there, at least they'll get like a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom if you're lucky.
2 bedrooms sometimes.
There's a big tourism industry in Miami. And people go to Miami all the time for vacation. They go to Florida for Disney World.
See, what this guy's looking for, he's not some guy, which you always imagine. I know I've often imagined. People imagine, well, people leaving New York, they're people who just retired, or people who, their elderly parent just passed away, or they're people who their kids just graduated. He's just a guy who wants a vibrant lifestyle. He wants a vibrant lifestyle with lots of things going on. And when you can't get that in New York City, why live in New York City? He's right. That's the reason that you want to live in New York City, because you want that lifestyle. You want people showing up. You want tourists. You want all those things. That's why you live in New York City. Otherwise, why would you live here, right? You want that stuff. He wants it, and he can't get that. Well, then why live here? He's right.
Vacation spot. So people are more apt to visit me while I'm there in Miami. It's very easy because people want to come. It's also close to all the cruises, and Miami Beach is right there. It's perfect. Now for the number one reason why I'm moving, and that's
number one reason why he's moving. Here we go. What do you think the number one reason is going to be? Well, I'll give you a hint, a little hint. The libertarians watching are going to be like, yep, knew it the whole time.
Because of taxes.
Bingo! Of course. Yes, of course. And how many people tell me people don't care about tax, people don't care about taxes? He does. He's not some big time business owner. He's not. Yeah, Paula, you got it perfectly. Well done. Yes, he's not that. Now, there are other reasons, obviously, other things, right, that he's looking, reasons, right? And he mentioned them all. And a lot of those are lifestyle issues. But number one was taxes.
Living in New York City, you have to pay state taxes and local taxes, and that amounts to 12% of your annual income. That's a lot of money. And by moving to Florida, I'll be able to save on that.
Yep.
And also because I plan to travel more, why should I be in New York City when I'm traveling and be a New York City resident and pay the taxes and I won't even be here?
Yep.
It doesn't seem fair, right?
That right there, what he just said, is what's going to crush New York State. And the reason why it's going to crush it is because of the COVID lockdowns. The lockdowns that made so many people who were wealthy, not just this young man, but I'm talking wealthy people, like people whose income is in the 7 figures and more, right? Those people, when they if you're that wealthy and you live in New York State, you have more than one home, right? Those type of wealthy people have more than one home. They have one in New York City and then one someplace else, whether it's a Jersey Shore, Florida, Arizona, Colorado, upstate New York, New Hampshire. They have another home someplace else, right? Well, when the lockdowns came, they went there and worked literally for 2 years. They've been working there for 2 years, making their same money, living there. Why the hell would they come back? They're not going to. They're not coming back. I know, they're my clients. They're not coming back. They're going to stay there. They're not going to move back here. And they're going to sell off or get rid of homes. Or if they're renting, just not come back and let the leases run out. And they'll be done. And they won't come back. And you might go, well, so some wealthy people don't come back. Well, it's not just wealthy people. It's people like this guy, ActionKid, lots of other people, plus them. And the worst part for the economy for them is, while it's bad that we lose talent, it is. It's bad we lose talent. It is. But on top of the talent that we lose when a person's wealthy is we lose all the people who service them in the city. The restaurants they go to, the cleaners they use, right? The opera they go to, the theaters they visit. We lose all those things. It's double whammy. This man is correct.
So going to Florida, at least I get a little bit of a tax break and be able to save a little money while I do my traveling throughout wherever I need to go. I've also considered other places to move to in the United States, like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Houston, but
see, he immediately thought he wanted to move to a vibrant city. That's what he likes. And for those of you who live in New York City, you know what I mean. If you don't, if they don't live in New York City, well, this is why people live in New York City. They want that vibrance, right? He thought of LA. Maybe I'll go to LA. That's a vibrant city. Maybe I'll go to San Francisco. That's a vibrant city. Then he was like, no.
Those cities didn't really offer me the same opportunity as Miami did. Plus, California also has the homeless problem there, and it's also a state with high income taxes, probably even more than New York. I'm also familiar with Miami since I've been there before. I spent a lot of time there, and I think it's a great place. There's going to be a lot of people in Miami, a lot of creators are moving down there, and I just find that it's a great place to live. That's why I've decided to move there. Now for the cons about moving to Miami. People like to complain about the hot weather, the alligators, the lizards, the food choices, and also not.
Well, I'm going to go past that. I don't want to slam Miami for any reason. It doesn't really matter. I hope you guys saw my point here, right? He's bringing up big points, important points on how to make this work. So let me see if there's anything else I have to end before here. If I can grab anything else.
Disaster, whether it's flooding, thunderstorms, earthquakes, fire. At least with a hurricane, they give you some warning before it happens.
That's his thing for Miami.
With a hurricane, at least
let me keep going
to travels and the future of the ActionKid channel. I want to thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button, and I'll see you soon. This isn't the goodbye because I can come back.
You won't. But yes, I get it. I wish he would come back, but he's not gonna. We all know this. This, to me, personally, is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because it's exactly what I think about. It's why I do what I do. And to see someone like him leave is just another person we've lost. More talent we lost out of the state, more opportunities for us that we've lost. It drives me crazy. It's a personal thing for me. So let me grab a couple comments here if I could. I appreciate that. Gene says, will you be at the LPPA convention this weekend? I will not. I have several things to do up here. So running for office, it makes my convention schedule tiny. So I will not be there. So good luck if you're there. Hope things go well for you. So yes. All right. Let me grab a couple more of these. I thank you for all the comments, guys. I appreciate it. Yes. Diane says, hi, Larry. Thank you for sharing liberty. I'm trying. Yes. Gene says, I'm taking the classes. Thank you. I hope you enjoy them. Many of them are things like happiness over at as she's talking about, of course, which is libertarianism.com. Libertarianism.com is where you can take those classes. Thank you for taking them, Gene. I appreciate it. Yes. So Andrea says, good evening, Larry. I feel the same about people leaving Illinois. I would bet it's the same, right? Particularly if you live in Chicago. You probably live in Chicago because you love Chicago, right? For those of you who live in Chicago and you love it. That's why you live there. And then you watch your city begin to collapse and you go, what am I doing? Right? When they call it Chirac, right? When it's that bad, when people are shooting up everybody in Chi-Town, you go, what am I doing? And you watch people leave. I'm sure it breaks your heart too. I get it. Yes. So James says, do people question your libertarianism now that you have formed an alliance with the Forward Party? Personally, I think you're still libertarian. I don't know. Maybe people do. To be forward, I'm not concerned. The reality of it is we have to fight the state. The state is too big to fight without an alliance. I create alliances. I've been saying literally for years that the Libertarian Party can cross over and easily get people from the left and from the right. Well, I've been saying it and I proved it. So I'm proving it and I hope people get it. So yes. I don't, so far no one has, but I'm sure somebody will yell at me and call me a name or something. It won't be the first time that I've been yelled at. So maybe, yes. So, all right. Let's see. OG says, I left on Sunday 48. I'm not sure what 48 means. Saw no hope. Yeah, I know. I know. It's bad. Yeah. All right. Let's see here if I can go down here. John says, wearing a lot of Buffalo Sabres and Bill shirts in Orlando. I like that. Yes, absolutely. I get stopped all the time asking me where to find good wings and pizza. They know you're another New Yorker. Absolutely. Our houses and rents are inflating fast, struggling to keep up housing here with all the influx of people. It's true. And you're another one. You left me too, John. You guys all left me. But you left Buffalo. So that's bad, but not as close to the heart as New York City. But yes. Matt says, I left Syracuse. Another one. Yes, everyone's leaving my state. In 2006, after I graduated from college and moved to Texas. Best decision I've made for my life. What are the two things that Florida and Texas have in common? Yeah, no state tax. No state income tax. Yep. Pete says, the Russians still haven't driven as many Ukrainians from their homeland as Andrew Cuomo drove New Yorkers from theirs. Pete, you're a bad person. Well, you're not wrong. It's very good. It's very good. It's true. You're right. So who's worse? Is it Cuomo or Putin? Right? Yes. I got to tell you the truth, though. You're probably right in that I think literally Cuomo has broken up more families. That's true. Yes. Love it. So Logic says, beautiful place. People, though, I guess New York City gets who and what policy they vote for. Yeah, I guess, I feel kind of like there's almost no choice in it. That's kind of a cop-out. What I mean by that, the system is set up for it. That's a better way of saying it. That's a better way. The system is set up for it. That's better. Shelly says, if you're not subscribed, please do. Shelly is correct. If you are right now watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. It does matter. If you're not watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Go over to the YouTube page and hit subscribe. It does matter. Every little one you do does matter. It helps to move me past the algorithms. I'm being shadow banned. Every little bit helps. Absolutely. So yes. So John says, Susan's lecturing me on having this show on doing in an North Carolina steakhouse. That's kind of cute. I like that. Yes. Mark says, I was born and raised there. I left and it was the best choice I ever made. If you aren't a raging liberal and stay there, you're not being logical. I'm trying to fight, Mark, and maybe it's emotional. You know what? You might be right. Maybe what I'm doing is not logical. Maybe it's emotional. Maybe it is. It's still how I feel. So maybe it is. Yes. Josh says, my wife's family left Syracuse when GM left. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Shelly says, in New York City, you used to be able to live your life unencumbered by the politicians. Those days are gone. Correct. Absolutely. Liberty of Death says, New York City is definitely not a safe city, especially down there in the subways. And this is the worst part, right? Because if you're wealthy, you don't have to worry about it. And this goes back to the same thing. People think, oh, you libertarians about the rich. I'm the one saying the wealthy don't care about the subways. They're not in the subways. What do they care? They have drivers. I don't know if it's still as bad as it used to be because a lot of rich, wealthy people have left. But if you go to Park Avenue, it's probably still the same. Down Park Avenue, there isn't much parking, right? Clearly, it's Park Avenue, right? But if you go down Park Avenue, most of the banks and the financial institutions are no longer on Wall Street. If you don't live in New York City, you don't know this. After 9/11, many of them left. And then as the recession hit in 2008, almost all of them left. That I know only Deutsche Bank is still on Wall Street. Every other bank is not on Wall Street anymore. You can live on Wall Street. It's literally residential now. Like you can have an apartment on Wall Street now. It's not a financial district anymore. They still call it now FIDI because that's how you say cool things in New York City. You don't say financial district. That's for chumps. You say FIDI because you're super cool. So you can live down there now in FIDI. The bankers are now on Park Avenue. If you drive down Park Avenue, you look down the side streets. What you'll see around 45th, 46th, 48th, 50th Street in those areas is down the street, side streets, a bunch of black cars. A bunch of black cars parked along the sidewalks right next to the curbs. You say, well, why are these cars there? And there's people in the cars. What? People in the cars? Yes. Those are all the drivers of all the wealthy people in the buildings. Literally, they're just sitting there. They're getting paid to sit in a car because you can't park there, but you can stand there. So they keep their drivers in the car. So whenever they need to go someplace, they come down, pop in a car, and get driven where they want to go. That's New York City. Those people don't care about the subway. They're not concerned. That's for the peasants. They go into the subway. That's how they think. But the problem is peasants don't want to die either. None of us want to die. So we either get down there because we're desperate, or we don't go down there anymore. And when you don't go down there anymore, but the subway still has to run, we get even more of a deficit because people aren't using the subway anymore. And then those who can are driving in. So now we have more traffic in the city, making things even worse. So now what's our answer? Congestion pricing, to punish the people even more who come into the city. Let's just punish the poor middle class again and again and again. That's our answer every time. It's embarrassing. It's a terrible answer. Gene says, do you have a plan to change homelessness? Absolutely. I spoke about this, was it yesterday or 2 days? I think it was yesterday. I talked about this idea. Homelessness can't just be solved by building more shelters. That's not necessarily a bad idea, but that's not the answer. That might be one part of an answer. The problem with building more shelters is that just keeps allowing, contractors to make a bunch of money, but people don't want to go to the shelters because they're not safe, right? But the problem is you have to break homelessness up into a couple of pieces. One of them is the working poor. Some of the working poor are homeless. That group works well for building houses, right? They can then get into cheap housing. Well done. There's another group that is, they're addicts. If you put addicts into the same areas of working families, you're literally going to have children and kids and everybody walking around while people are shooting up. That's probably not the best environment. That should be a separate house or housing or plaza or place where those people can get help, where addicts can help each other, former addicts can be there. That's where they need to be, not by the families. That's a separate issue. And those can be corporate sponsored, easily corporate sponsored. There are examples of it already. Jericho House is one. I think Ronald McDonald House. I think they do families, right? They do one of those two, but they're also separate. There are examples of this. You can literally create a Pepsi house or something. And that's the rehabilitation center where people can go who are addicts, who are homeless, and they can go there and get help. And some of them are going to be shooting up because they're addicts, but you have areas where they can do that in that specific thing for those people, right? So other people don't have to be around when that's happening who don't want to deal with that issue. See, there it is, done. Counselors are there, former addicts are there, they can get help. It can work. Let a corporate sponsor that. They can get all the kudos for successes and show how they care about the community when you're buying whatever, your Pepsi or your McDonald's or whatever you're buying, your whatever. No worries. The next part is the mental illness. Some of those overlap, obviously. Some of the families are house of addiction. Some of the families also have mental illness. Some of the people who have addiction problems also have mental illness. There is some overlap. But without question, the mental illness, the mentally handicapped people or mentally disabled people in our society are hugely overrepresented in the homeless population. It's massively overrepresented. So we know this. So we can now create the same kind of housing for them. Same thing. So you've got to break it up into at least 2, 3, or 4 different groups. You do that, sponsor them. Now all of a sudden you have a plan. And then anyone who's left over can be dealt with in shelters. Shelters will be more safe. The problem that we have is what that guy said. It's what Andrew Yang said. It's what I'm saying. The problem here, and you see it all over the place, what is hurting and destroying a lot of our areas unnecessarily, there are other issues that we have to deal with, but this part's unnecessary, is mentally ill, homeless men. Yes, that's the biggest issue that we're having when it comes to crime. Mentally ill, homeless men. You can call me sexist if you want to. That's who it is. We have to accept that as true and then create a plan to deal with that population or that segment of our population. You deal with that, you will solve tons of problems. Lots of things will be better when we handle that specific thing. And our answer has been, this is why they had bail reform, because our answer had been, just lock them all up in jail. That had been our answer. Lock them all up, put them in jail, put them in prisons, do that. And then our governor, Her Majesty Queen Kathy, her answer was, well, then let's just have more drugs in prison. I'm not joking. That was what she said in the State of the State. Let's just put more drugs in prison. We'll just make sure they have better drugs in prison, better drugs for the mentally ill. She's fine with our prison system in New York State being the largest mental health facility in the state. She's fine with that. Our prison system is the largest mental health facility in the state. We don't train our corrections officers to handle it at all. We don't. We then punish everyone else who's not mentally ill to be housed with the mentally ill. And then the answer is more drugs. So then everyone said, well, we can't lock them up. Let's give them help. Well, great. Don't lock them up, but then give them help. We're not locking them up, letting them go, and not giving them help. So do I have a plan, Gene? Yes. Will they listen to me? No, because that would solve a problem. And they don't want to do that. So I hope I answer your question at least. Yes. All right. See if I can grab some of these if I can. Let's see here. Kirsten says, I really like to see that the actual data people are referring to when they make claims that it's about people becoming 10 times repeat criminals with New York bail reform. I don't know if it's 10 times. I know it's without question. Every one of these things that we see on TV that scares everyone to death, every one of them is repeat offender. That I'm sure of. Every one of those that we see that we get scared of, the guy with the hammer who hit them with the hammer, the stabbings that we see, every single one of them, repeat offender. So even if it's hype, the hype is a repeat offender. So if you focus on your bail reform on the first time offender, that doesn't happen. Or if the judges wouldn't just let this happen so that we can repeal the bail reform completely and never get bail reform. That's my problem. That's my problem. We'll repeal it and then we'll get no bail reform. So I'd rather just fix this one instead of repealing it and get nothing. So Walter says there's a guy in Utica arrested over a dozen times in 2 months, let out every time. I believe you, Walter. I don't know if it's true, but I've seen so many stories that way. I now believe you. And that's, Kirsten, to your point, I shouldn't believe him, right? That doesn't make sense. I should think that Walter's, making that up. I should think that. I don't. So even if, Walter, I don't think you are, but even if you are making it up, I believe you. But to Kirsten's point, I shouldn't believe it. I should believe that, no, that would never happen. No. I believe it happens. I've seen too much of it. So yes. Lewis says, great idea, Larry. Thank you. I appreciate that. Gene says, police reform does not mean defunding. Correct. I've never said defund the police. Never said that, ever. I've said reform. And police reform should be voluntary based upon how you're being policed. I want communities to be policed how they want to be policed. If you are unhappy with your police force, you should reform it. If you are happy with your police force, what do I care? Enjoy your police force. Communities should be policed the way they want to be policed. That's the issue. And the smaller that community is, right, the better it's going to be in deciding its police force. It becomes much more challenging in a place like New York City compared to areas in upstate New York. But it doesn't mean impossible. It just means challenging. So yeah, absolutely. Liberdes says, we've been having that problem in upstate. Criminals skipping court and then killing someone after the court date and not being found until months or years later. I know that is a thing. That's my issue, right? We've had people who skip a court date, get caught, then get let out. You already skipped the court date. The reason why you're in court this time is because you had a warrant out for the first court date. And the judge goes, well, I'm going to let you out again. The reason why you arrested him is because he skipped the court date. Why would you let him out? And the response to the judge, well, I have no power. That hasn't stopped you in the past from doing crazy stuff. Now you care? See, I think the judges are purposely doing this. The judges are purposely letting everybody out. Yes, I said it. I think they are. Because they don't like the fact that they have no power. And they don't want to fix it. They want it completely removed. And it's going to work. That's the worst part. It's going to work. They're going to repeal bail reform and put nothing in its place. And now all the poor kids are going to go back to going to Rikers Island and getting stabbed. Instead of focusing on what I'm saying, focus on the first offender. Do that. It's a good band. It'll do. Kirsten, is it perfect? It's not. Is it a good enough band-aid for now? Yes. It'll do for now. It's doable now. That's it. So Kirsten says, hopefully the jury being faced with a 17-year-old facing execution for graffiti with the same response as jurors during the Bloody Code era in England during the nullification. I would hope they would too, Kirsten. I just have watched, sadly, some of you know I've done some defense attorney consulting. And I have watched innocent people go to jail. And it is heartbreaking. It's one of the reasons why I don't do that work that much. Because it sucks your soul. When you watch guilty people go to jail, It's still bad, but, they deserve it. They're guilty. I have seen people who I know are innocent locked up. I know shouldn't have gone to jail. Locked up. Can't stand it. It begins to break your psyche a bit. It's heart-wrenching when you know that they didn't do it or did something that wasn't that bad and don't deserve what they got. It's horrible. And Kirsten, you've probably done some of that work too, so you probably know what I'm talking about. It is not good. So yes. All right. All righty. Let's see here. Let me grab some of these if I can. Grab a couple more. Well, you guys have a lot of comments. I appreciate it. Yes. Ron says, leaving Long Island for North Carolina in 10 months, done with this state. 10 months, which means you'll be here for the election, Ron. And I'm just saying, I can get a vote out of you. That'd be nice. Before you go, little parting blow. Hook me up. I appreciate that. Yes. Liberty says, going to Florida. Yep, absolutely. Bam. Dan says, Florida knew it. Yep, absolutely. I knew he was going. Absolutely. Yes, of course he was. Thomas says, Louisiana folks leaving for Texas and or Florida due to similar BS in New York City and New York State. I've heard that. I've heard that people are leaving it. Absolutely. I have heard that. Yes. Yeah. Eric says, I sometimes joke and say, things are getting so bad in Brooklyn, even the biker gangs are scared of leaving. That's funny. Yes, absolutely. Missy says, small local businesses are dying off. It's really depressing and a huge disappointment. 100%. Liberty says, New York hates productive people. I wish you were wrong, but it's true. They punish you as much as they possibly can. It's almost like they don't want this. It's almost like they don't want you. Like how dare you? How dare you? Rock D's says the same thing is happening in California. Both states are ruined, abandoned ship. I hope you're wrong. I have some hope. I'm trying to make that happen. Trying. Jonathan says it's almost like there's some connection between cities with extensive regulations around construction and rents being too damn high. What? Jonathan, what? I can't believe you say something as crazy as that. There's no way that's true. Well, yeah. Paul, you knew it was taxes, huh? When he said, yeah, I knew it was taxes. Yes. Logic says, yep. Oh, he was thinking Austin. Okay, no, all right. Absolutely. That's a good question too. So Jonathan says, I'm a public defender and pay over 1/3 of my income in taxes, not counting out sales tax, of course. Totally ridiculous. Wow. As a public defender, so you're trying to help people and they're still hammering you. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Shelly says, I have 3 places lined up if we can't get Larry. I like that. Cancun, Arizona, and Texas. What? No, Florida? All right, Shelly. All right. Cancun sounds cool, though. I mean, I'm not going to lie. That sounds pretty cool. I like that. Yes, absolutely. So, guys, I said this because I brought this entire piece up because it matters to me, right? It does matter to me tremendously. I care about New York. It's why I'm doing what I'm doing. This bothered me personally because I feel his pain. And many of you who've left New York or considering living in New York, you feel his pain in a different way because you live in New York City, but you still feel it. So look, if you want to help out, like, comment, and share. It does matter. If you want to support the show, please head over to libertarianism.com. Click that link. Take those classes. Gene is doing it. It's fun. If you like the merch, buy it. You don't have to buy it. They'll take the classes. You get points. Get the merch for free. It's up to you. Some cool merch there if you want to go there. It's great. Do that. It supports the show, and it's free. Unless you want to buy the merch, feel free. And of course, if you want to support me running around, LarrySharpe.com/donate. Maybe I'll get a shot at actually fixing this state. Or if nothing else, getting people to think differently about it so someone else can fix it. But I hope it's me. I think it can be me. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for today. I'm going to see you all tomorrow.